Hello and welcome to Mind Gourmet. My name is Nina Kaiser. I'm the co-founder of Mind Gourmet and as always, your host today. Today's guest is Danish thought leader, transformational speaker and change catalyst, Suzanne Franzen. Welcome, Suzanne. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Nina, for inviting me. It's such a pleasure.
Oh, I'm so happy we're here together, at least in this interdimensional space.
Yeah, in this space.
Right.
Yes.
And I thought before we dive into our conversation, I'm introducing you a little more to our audience. So, author of the Director's Manual, Heartfelt Leadership, and creator of the Magnetic Leadership Program, Suzanne Franzen is a transformational speaker, coach, and passion test facilitator. She is also founding member of the Network for Transformational Leaders and the changemakers around Icelandic thought leader Runa Magnus. Suzanne has a master's degree in strategic management, business psychology, theory U, and completed a lot of holistic courses based on the newest science on epigenetics, quantum physics, and neuroscience. She led thousands of people and organizations through one-on-one breakthrough sessions, which enabled them to take quantum leaps fast. Suzanne loves to be the change catalyst for all those who want to move from a performance-driven life to a purpose-driven one. She's also a gifted healer. So, would you tell us a little more about your journey of awakening and learning how the mind works and how you became who you are today?
Yeah. Well, I usually say that at this time of my life, I feel like I already lived like 4 or 5 lifetimes. It's truly been a life of transformation. And my first awakening was when I was 15. I had this troublesome period. It was probably because of a boy or something, but at least I felt like I was so dire straits that I started to pray. And one day I prayed for something. I don't particularly ask or know what I asked for, but the question I do remember, and it has been a guiding line for me ever since. I just got one sentence: we're all one. And I was like, at that time at 15, I did not know the full extent of what that meant. I'm sure I don't even know it by now, but at least I have been spending all of my life to investigate that, because to me it was kind of like, okay, if we're all one, if that is a profound truth, what does that mean regarding my way of living? So it has been my rule of thumb ever since that if we're all one, we're all interconnected in some way, then how should I treat others and how should I treat myself? Mm-hmm. And which marks should I leave in this world? So by now, when I've been really studying, as you said, the neuroscience, the quantum physics and the epigenetics, it makes even more profound meaning. I mean, it's like I keep double clicking that sentence, we're all one, and new truths are revealed. And it's been so interesting. And the next big awakening in my life, and by this time, when I was about 17, 18 or something, I think I had my first horoscope made. And I slowly started to sort of unfold this area of holistic living. And then when I had my first daughter, when I was 23, I'm pretty sure that had I given birth home, this might not have happened. But if it had happened, what happened, I would probably not be here anymore, because I lost a lot of blood. And I had to go into surgery right away. And I don't know if it was this experience or it was giving birth itself, but I had like 5 days of opening into understanding this universe. I had like this profound experience of being able to move through the universe and kind of see the different layers and just get all these experiences. I cannot now describe it in words. I just know that when it closed down after 5 days, it was like it left a knowing of how things were. And that has never left me. So I had like this profound faith and trust in life. And I'm pretty sure had I not had it, I would have been really challenged, more so than life turned out to be. But this stayed with me. And at this time I was in a marriage, of course, or not of course, but I was in a marriage. And when I was 29, I was divorced the first time. And this period of struggling led me to explore even more into this personal field. And in 2000, I took my healer's education in Reiki healing and later on in Gaia. And this again was yet another opening for me, where I, through these initiations, again was able to travel in this universe and get great spiritual experiences. So to me, this was not something that started off in science, in understanding the science and the mechanics of nature. It was more a knowing from within that happened. And then later on my journey, when I started to realize that I actually was here with the purpose of building the bridge between the old paradigm and the new paradigm, I came to the conclusion that I had also to investigate the neuroscience and the epigenetics and the quantum physics in order for me to be able to explain in words and meet people in their left brain, in order for them to be able and willing to open up their mind, open up their heart, and open up their will, in order for them to actually go through a deep personal transformation. So I've been walking my talk since forever, and it just keeps unfolding more and more so. And I had 3 divorces. So I've really been through the roller coaster of life. I went through depression, anxiety stuff when I was 29 with my first divorce. My first daughter did not sleep through in the night until she was 9.
Ooh.
And my husband was working nights, so I had the night shift always. And I was trying to do my final thesis and my master's degree while this was, in motion. And this period of sleep deprivation just left me in a space where I felt like I've been sort of blocked or, packed into something. So the impressions of the surroundings did not somehow get into me. I just felt like I was in this odd space. So I've been, trying quite a bit. And when I finally decided that it was time for me to go all in on this, like many others, I had also to encounter, deep financial problems, and how do I build this business?
Yes.
And what it has been calling forth in me is to trust. Not 80%, not 50%, not 90%, and not 99%, like 100% to trust the process of life. Because I have, in the last minute, so many times been dire straits, and I did not know how to pay my bills the next day. And I remember standing in this living room at one point, and I had to pay the bills the next day, and I did not know how. So I just stood there. I started talking to the universe, saying, okay, dear universe, I'm going to do this. I will insist on doing what feels right. So I'm jumping off this cliff, and you better damn catch me. So, and within 24 hours, I raised like 250,000 Danish kroners. And it was kind of like, okay, got you.
Wow.
So I think that we get these initiations from life in order for us to fully learn and integrate on a cellular level what it means when you say to trust life. And that to me is now crucial. In order for me to hold space for others and their transformation, I have to be like 100% into this trust and into this love and into this knowing of how things are. Because that is when I can hold space for quantum leaps, no matter what the leap might be. I had a couple of, in my Theory U circles, I had this circle of 7 we were, and they were like these 4 older guys, elders, you would call them probably, and they had been very much engaged in religion. Different religions, but nevertheless into religion. And I remember one time when they said, you know, Suzanne, you're not a member of any church, but you are for sure the biggest believer.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so I think that is what life has taught me, and you only do this by necessity. I mean, this is not something that you wake up one morning and say, hey, I will learn to trust. That is only something that you can get to when life shows you that it's true. And that means that you have to be really, you know, hanging on by your nails sometimes, and then still survive. That is when you learn how to trust. So, yeah. I think that's pretty much sums up my process of life, and I'm sure I'll get more invitations from life to kind of prove that I trust, but I'm probably also a person that would get bored within 14 days if nothing happened. So, you know, I like it.
Yeah. And you spoke a lot about your own changes and transformations, and how when you embarked on your dreams and visions, basically you had to face all the ugly stuff as well. Like when you said you needed to trust. So when you describe yourself as change enzyme and change catalyst, what exactly, I mean, you have so much own experience and you have all your studies. So if somebody embarks with you on a journey of change and transformation, what as a change enzyme and catalyst do you do with them?
Actually, I think that we have to consider letting go of the doing part of things, and engage more with the being. After all, it is called the human being. It's not called the human doing.
Good point.
And to me, that means that once you integrate fully on a cellular level, this kind of trust that we've just been discussing, actually what it enables you to do is to hold space for others. You can hold a high frequency in others to enter into. And when you enter into this, you get a glimpse of the awareness of the space holder.
Okay, yeah.
So imagine in the old times when we thought that the earth was flat, and then suddenly we saw a picture of this round earth, and we could never, ever again believe in the first picture that the earth was flat. So I think what I'm able to do is to create this shift in awareness. And once you do that, your reality, your outer reality follows your inner reality. So once that changes, something will change on the outside as well. So what I'm good at, I can see, is that I'm good at creating this space and to create a crack in somebody's mind, no matter if they had never engaged into, you know, the personal development space, or if they have done so for maybe 30, 40, 50 years. I can see that I can shift people's awareness, whether they're beginners or really practiced learners. And I also sometimes call myself an obsidian knife. And the qualities of an obsidian knife is that it's very sharp and it cuts to the bone with a minimal blood loss, and it leaves the the crack, so that it heals faster. And I can see that that is actually what I'm good at, whether it is individual change or an organizational change. And I see that I do it by bringing in new awareness, and by seeing that this is a round globe of ours. You cannot ever re-enter into the old space. So that is why I use those words. So I show the way, but people have to enter the door themselves. And the way I coach is also, I'm not the coach you need to visit 10, 20 times to get a change. Actually, what I usually say is that, have I not changed or helped you change quite profoundly within one session, I'm not the right person for you. Because if it works, it works. I mean, if you drop a pen, it falls down.
Yeah.
Not just some of the times, but all the times. So if you base your coaching on the fundament, the laws of nature, it works. I cannot always say how fast it will work, because sometimes people get into some really dark stuff that is kind of like the fundament of life, and they have to take care of that first before they can build the roof. So some things will grow very fast. I mean, I've experienced that people have changed their reality profoundly in a minute. And that's like instant manifestation. And that is when people suddenly start seeing things in a different way, and that they have no inner resistance on that new way.
Yeah.
If they have inner resistance that relies on very deep beliefs and programming of, for example, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable the way I am, and that this shift in awareness lies upon these fundamental beliefs, then it takes a bit longer. Then you have to retrain your brain, and I use the passion test as a tool for doing that. But that's, I think that's pretty much how I work. And it doesn't really matter whether it is individual change or organizational change, because an organization is just a group of individuals. So if you can change the dynamics in an individual, you will also change the dynamic in an organization. And I love both. And when I was a management consultant back in the days, the reason why I quit that job was that I could see that there was yet another level, another layer that we had not access to, and that was the deep personal traits. And to me, it made no sense to train an organization in doing things in a new way if we did not also change the thinking that lies beneath. So now I get to do both.
Yeah, which is so beautiful.
So yeah, that's just, things come full circle now, and I really enjoy that, and I really enjoy that I now get to harvest the fruits of my process, because I did not love all of my process while I was in it. It took me a little time to appreciate the learnings in the now. By now I can, because I've had a lot of training, but sometimes people have to see the gifts in the hindsight.
Yeah. Isn't it mostly this way, that when we're out of something and we're looking back?
Yeah, but I have found a way to appreciate it in the now as well, by asking 2 questions. I even wrote an e-guide, a free e-guide that people can download on my website that goes into this theme on how to cope gracefully and easily with crisis, and when life's turning you upside down. So people are welcome to download that one.
Do you want to share the 2 questions?
Yes, of course I will. So first I ask, what can I no longer do I mean, what is this situation inviting me to let go of? And what is life inviting me to let in? Because, you know, when things get tough, it's just our inner GPS that is trying to guide us in the best direction. You know, our heart, the feeling, if things feels heavy, it's your higher self, your soul level that is communicating with your lower self, your ego mind, on, you know, taking a new direction. So when it feels heavy, it's either wrong direction or wrong thinking.
Okay.
And if it feels easy, it's just like following the green light in traffic. Just keep going. You're on your path. So these two questions goes into exploring: is it wrong thinking or wrong direction?
Mm-hmm.
What should I let go of? What should I let in? Where is the open door that I don't want to see?
Oh yeah.
And that again goes back into the area of limiting beliefs. It's all our mental construct that will guide us or hold us back, even if life has told us many times that we should go in that direction. You know, the brain is just the survival mechanism of us, and it really likes to be on autopilot, following the same path. Even so that when it's heavy, it still want to continue. I mean, because it does not like change.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is when you are invited by life to go a little bit outside of yourself and do some deep reflection and really look at yourself. And you might even have a little play with, if I was my own best friend, what would I say to this person? Sometimes it helps to kind of go outside and see things from the outside. But it's all about letting go and letting come.
Yeah, and I remember one day you said to me, choose the path of least resistance and most joy.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing I remember that goes very well for me with this is that you said, if you're not sure if something feels heavy or hard because it just lies out of your comfort zone, or if it's not your way, just take a step further. This is such a cool thing.
Yeah, because our comfort zone and the mind really plays with us, and fear would feel heavy. It will feel like a contraction of your energy. So what I mean by taking a step further in the heavy direction is that once you get just this tiny step outside of your comfort zone, that the reason your mind is resisting is because it actually thinks that you're going to die by moving in that direction. So once you've moved just a little bit out of your comfort zone and you're still alive, your brain will relax and, okay, we didn't die. And all of a sudden the fear lets go, and you can feel into if it feels more like excitement instead of contraction. Studies were made with people who were jumping out the plane to see how does your physics react once you're about to jump out of the plane. And what you could see is that before the jump, all of the body is really, really, really busy. Once you have jumped, it gets totally quiet. Totally quiet. You're all at ease. Okay. Just right after the jump. Because by then, the mind finds out, okay, we're still here. Oh, good you. Oh, look at that. And then all of your system relaxes. So instead of being your reptile brain, get into your prefrontal cortex and you can kind of relax and enjoy the ride. So the trick of life is to actually always be able to stay in that part of your mind so that you will not get into a fight, flight, freeze phase. Because that's when all the stress hormones are like racing around and makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's harder to hear our inner GPS when we are so stressed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just survival mode we enter into.
Yeah.
So we are totally out of, we're not coachable when we are in that state of mind. We actually have to help the body to relax its nervous system. I remember one CEO I had once, I think it was the last, or no, his second time he was here. He came to me because he'd already died twice by a heart attack, and he could feel that his body was building up for yet another, and he was super nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And he was here. And I could actually feel his nervous system vibrating before he entered into my home when he was on the stairs. And luckily, or the client that was about to come after him had just, canceled. So I actually had 4 hours available, and we were only supposed to have 2. But he entered, and he was like, steam was coming out of all of his system, and I quickly realized that I could not coach him through my normal coaching methods. So by this time, when he had just let out some of the steam, and one of the things he said was that I haven't been to work for a week because I know that if I enter into my company, a big company, with this kind of energy, I will just make things worse. So I'm staying away. And then I said to him, well, would you be willing to have some healing before we do a coaching session? And he said, well, I'm willing to do whatever because this does not feel nice. And then he had a healing session, and afterwards his nervous system was relaxed. He was out of his reptile brain, and we could get into the core of what was going on in his system. And for him actually, he wanted to sell his company, or at least engage a external CEO so that he could be more of a business angel. He wanted to be that. Mm-hmm. And he had actually made every plan. I mean, he even had candidates for this job, but he had not executed on it. So there was building so much pressure up on the inside, and that was what was causing this nervous system to just be so vibrating. And I dug into, why is it that you have not acted upon all of this? And he said, well, my dad, he had a company as well. And when he sold it, he ended up on the couch watching TV and playing an occasional golf tournament. He became a vegetable, he said. I do not want to end up being a vegetable. So he had inner resistance, so much built up. And then we went for a walk. I think I took him on an 8 kilometers walk because I said, well, you need to get this out of your system. We have to, move things around. And once the body is in motion, the mind is more easily brought into motion as well. So I do this sometimes when I feel like I have to move people fast.
Yeah.
I was actually literally fearful on him not surviving this day had we not gotten his system into another state of mind. So by that, and then by the end of this session, I said, well, you know what? In 15 minutes, you will call me, and by then you have called the candidates for this job. And so he did, and he got it out of his system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is also what I mean by catalyzing change, is that I don't do it for people, but I hold the space and I gently, or not so gently sometimes, push them into the direction that, their higher self wants them to go. And you can just imagine an organization. Actually, studies shows that when the CEO or the leader is dire straits in their personal life, you can see it on the bottom line of the company by a 15% deduction in revenue. So this is actually not something to be taken lightly, and you cannot separate private from work. We have to look at the whole person in order for all of us to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah. I could talk for days, but now I'll let you ask him.
One thing that I wanted to go back to is before you said you are a good space holder and you can basically show by being a certain awareness and vibration to others. You can, I don't know if borrow it to them is a good word, but basically they can go into that as well and enter a new level of clarity. And I had the incredible pleasure to do a session with you, and that's exactly how I felt. And it's true, you cannot unlearn something. So maybe you cannot enter it anymore at any time, but you know it's there. And the other thing that I would love you to tell us a little about is I just loved the way you explained me how my mind works using epigenetics, quantum physics, and neuroscience. And I know that's a huge thing, but can you like condense it a little bit and touch upon things like when were our limiting beliefs created? Why is heart-brain coherence so important? And what exactly is this inner GPS?
Yeah. It's a big question.
I know.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best. So let's start by the inner GPS and why it's so vitally important for us to listen. As I said previously, your heart and the feeling state of you is your higher self, your soul level, who is connecting with you 24/7 to let you know if you are on your life purpose path. And what studies also show is that you emanate a vibration out of your heart, also your brains, but the one from the heart is like 5,000 times stronger than from your mind. And what we can see is that when you do not follow your path, you have like a meter of radiation. But once you go into being in your zone and really folding out your life purpose, this field is at least 3 times bigger. Mm-hmm. So you might also have tried to be in the presence of somebody who's really engaged and really excited about what they do, and you can really see how they shine once they share their message. You feel elevated in their presence. And that is that energy field that you walk into, and that is the space holding effect. And you can just imagine that we're all these people on this earth, and we're all interconnected in this space. And when many people have the same emotional state, you can actually measure it in satellites way out in space. So we can actually see on these measurements that before, for example, nature's catastrophes in nature, or financial breakdowns or political breakdowns, this field, this resonance field changes, so you can actually pre-sense with your heart what is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Your mind has never been in the future. It's always been in the past. So it's a worst advisor on how to lead your life, where your heart is the only one that is able to pre-sense into your future. And what we can see is that once we do that, and once we only take wholehearted steps, which means to me that your body will answer your question with a full body yes. So you can feel it. You can feel if it's right. And once we do that, we can see that it opens up in your brain so that you get into this heart-brain coherence state where you are equally using your left and your right hemisphere of the brain. Otherwise, I call it half-heartedly and half-brained if you only follow what you think is right. So you have to enter into this space of doing what you came here for. And what also happens once we do that is that we move closer to the understanding of we're all one, because we're actually, all of us are cells in this bigger organism called mankind. And none of us is in competition with each other. We're actually just here to blossom and shine, every one of us. So you are you, I am me. And when I use all of my potential, I shine. When you use all of your potential, you shine. And once all of mankind gets into this state, this organism will fall into place.
Yeah.
But where we are right now in this evolution and this awakening that's going on is that sometimes things have to fall apart before it falls into place. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening all around. And our willingness to listen and learn, what do I need to let go of and what do I need to let in, is what will, determine how fast we get into this coherent state within and without. Because your inner being, your inner state is always 24/7 reflected back to you from the outside. Mm-hmm. And that is the quantum physics part of it. That is actually just this quantum field, the 0 point field, that's also called, is actually just a copying machine of your inner belief system. So what I send out, the vibration that my thinking sends out and the vibration that my heart sends out, is what I get mirrored back in my outer reality.
Yeah.
And that is why my number one passion is to co-create heaven on earth. And to me, that means that we come to a state where we within have found our own heaven on earth. Hell is not actually a place you go to. Hell is a state of mind. Mm-hmm. And so is heaven. So if you change your belief system, you can experience this total bliss within, and by then you will also experience it in your outer world. All vibrations have a frequency that can be measured. So let's say shame, guilt, and anger, they are in the range of 20 to 150 megahertz. Whereas if you move further up to accept is about 500, love is on 540, and gratitude is between 700 and 1000 megahertz frequencies. And we all know that if we are caught up in an emotion of being angry or shameful, it feels heavy.
Oh yeah.
Dense. I mean, we feel like, oh, can I get further down? And when I'm in that state of being, I have a tendency to make choices, whether it be choices of thinking or choices of behavior that comes out of a place of fear.
Yeah.
And lack and separation. Whereas if we move further up onto the love and the gratitude, which is a powerful combo, you will feel like champagne bubbles in your system, right? And you will make your choices, whether it be thinking or behavior, out of trust and oneness. So that is the journey of life, is to let go of the lower frequencies that our body holds. Yeah. Because epigenetics now shows us that we hold on to traumas in our cellular structure. And we can do quite a bit by changing our thinking, but we also have to integrate it on a cellular level. And that is why I use healing as well, but only once I've changed the thinking. Because if the old thinking is still there, it would recreate the imbalance of the body. I might have success with healing it for a while, but if I haven't healed the thinking first, then it will not integrate fully into the body. But if I do it the other way around, thinking and then body, I have had quite a few stories with people with chronic diseases that have been healed within one session. And the doctors have called it a miracle.
Wow. Yeah.
And to me, it's not a miracle. I'm so joyful that it happens, but it's not a miracle because it can be explained. Because it's on the basis of natural laws, like the law of gravity. When I drop something, it falls down. If I let go of the thinking system, the belief, the limiting belief that created this chemistry and this imbalance in my body, then by just like that, the chemistry of your body is balanced and it has to let go of the disease.
Yeah.
Because the feeding source of it has gone.
Right. And the new you doesn't have the disease.
No. Because the body has a really profound mechanism of healing itself. And actually the sickness itself, the disease itself, is the healing process.
That's interesting.
But what we do usually in our medicine, when you go into an allopathic hospital, is to fight the disease.
Yeah.
But by fighting the disease, we fight the healing. So the body has to sort of encapsulate the disease on the cellular level instead of getting a true healing. When we only take care of the symptoms, we have to take care of the cause.
Absolutely.
And that is why I have these great and very meaningful experiences with people that have let go of chronic diseases. Now, usually people don't come to me because they want to get healed on that level, because they have been told you have to live with this.
Mm-hmm.
But usually what I try to create a space around is can we, the next 3-4 hours, just play a little and create a reality in which you can be healed? Would you be willing to just play with the thinking around that? And usually people, they will. And what is so special about the body is that it has its own language for telling us what thinking caused the disease. Because it's very interconnected with a psychosomatic way of telling us what's wrong. So it's not like looking for a needle in a haystack. Actually, the body tells us by its symptoms where the course is. So as a coach, when I ask people, so is your body talking to you? What is it saying? And then I can right away target into that, limited space of their belief system that goes around this topic. And that is why I can usually pretty fast help people. Because again, it's a law of nature. It's not a seek and you shall find. And it takes a long time. Nope, it doesn't.
This is so fascinating. And it's so beautiful that these new pieces of knowledge exist now, and that in some way, on a very today's way, they reflect all the many ancient teachings, mythologies, and traditions that we have. And I so love that you can bridge science and spirituality and give the whole system, the heart, the body, the brain, what it needs for that transformation. And there are two things that I would like you to explain a little more that we mentioned before, and I thought people might be very interested in them and also working with you. And that is, what is the passion test that you said you're using, and what do you do in your magnetic leadership program?
Yes. So the passion test to me is a tool that I use for reprogramming the mind. Now, I could give you the passion test without any initial things, but that is not how I use it. I've developed my own method of coaching that I do before doing the passion test, because I want the reprogramming to target into the limiting beliefs that that person holds, because that is where the true transformation and fast transformation is possible. But once you get to the passion test, it's a very simple process and yet very profound, where you list 10 sentences that follows my life is ideal when I am. So this is listed, and it's 6-9 words, and it has to be in present tense, but because since this quantum field is a copying machine, I would not want to copy a order for the universe that says, I wish I had more love in my life.
Yeah.
That would come from a place of lack.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to be, I have more love, I enjoy, I gratefully, abundantly, whatever, really juicy, sexy words, because the purpose of the sentences are for you to get into an elevated state of emotion and mind.
Yeah.
So it is all about raising your frequency, like we talked about the frequency of emotion. So it has to be sentences that are juicy and high frequent.
Right.
So that is the first step, that we list 10 sentences. And then by a specific way of asking questions, I get you to prioritize these sentences so that we get your top 5. Yep. Now, to the mind, this feels like hell, because you just listed 10 sentences and you really want them all. And now I ask you to choose your top 5. The mind does not like that. But the reason for doing this is the more clear you can get on what's important, the more precise you can send the order out to the universe. And the 5 sentences that do not make it to your top 5 list, we will use as markers, because that is the next step. So per top 5, we sort of double click each of them, and we fold out 3, 5, perhaps a little bit more sentences that would describe really vividly, how does this reality look like when you live it out to a 10? So you really get to weave the details of this new future. And then we use these 5 sentences that you didn't make on the top 5. They will always fit into this puzzle. And so the job for you after you've done the passion test is for you to repeat this document. Read it out loud, read it out in your mind, put it into your phone and listen to your own voice, do whatever, but for at least 2 months to repeat this in the morning, in the afternoon. If you have a meditation practice, that would also make sense to have a combo, because it works best when your brain is in alpha mode, when your brain frequency is in an alpha, because by then you have writing access into your subconsciousness. So that is where you can change things rapidly. And then you also use this document as a steering document for your life. So you have to ask yourself, whenever I choose between a thought and a behavior, does this thinking, this behavior, bring me to my ideal life, or does it bring me further away? So always choose in favor of this document. And then you have to put some, this is the first step of the manifestation process, is intention. Get clear on what you want. And then next step is attention, which means that I should engage in actions that bring me closer to. And then I should engage in the third step, which is no tension, which means letting go of figuring out how the heck this will fall into place. Because your mind, as I said, has only been in the past. So it cannot figure out. If it had already figured that out, you would be there. So you have to actually park your mind and just let your inner GPS, your heart, which is actually the first organ to be developed when you're a fetus. The very first thing. So this is where your heart or your soul lives. So you have a muscular heart and a spiritual heart. And this is where you build from. So you have to listen to this. It's been guiding you ever since you were created. in this life. And just to take a little, I forgot to tell you about the epigenetics, that there is also an epigenetic inheritance. So you have inherited thinking and behavior from your ancestors. Mm-hmm. So you haven't gotten these limiting beliefs all by yourself. You have been pre-programmed into this. So when Bruce Lipton, I took his study on epigenetics, one thing he said was that things are running in families, and it ain't genes. Not our genes that are holding the cause of disease and whatever else bad we experience. Actually, only in 1% of every disease we can trace it back to the gene. But in 90% of all diseases, you could trace it back to the thinking, because your thinking creates the chemistry of your body, and it is the chemistry of your body that would either activate or deactivate the blueprint in the genes.
Yeah.
So, and then there are 9% left, which are toxins. Toxins that you take in on your food, your smoking, your alcohol, your whatever, and the toxins from the environment on the outside. But 90% of your destiny is your thinking.
This is so empowering.
Yes, it is. But sometimes, even though we would like to be powerful, sometimes we also encounter a part of us, an inner wounded child that really love the victim, to hold on to that, because then we can say that it's not my fault, I cannot do anything. But actually you have to do something. You have to listen, you have to change your direction in order for you to go where you actually want to be, to live out your purpose, to live out your longings and your dreams. Your longings and your dreams are yours to be lived out. You cannot get the hang of a dream or a longing that you cannot also execute on. That is how the universe works. And once you can actually get the hand of this, that it becomes tangible in a way, you have already in this quantum field created that reality 99.9%. So the last 0.1% of creation relies on your inner resistance and letting go of it. And that is why I've sometimes experienced that within a minute that people have manifested it, because they didn't have any inner resistance on changing their mind. It wasn't like they were telling themselves on a subconscious level, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
So play with it and lean yourself back into trust, and trust that you can unfold this dream of yours. It is yours. Otherwise you wouldn't have it.
That's true.
So, but we insist on the no pain, no gain paradigm. But actually it is the no gain with pain paradigm that is now taking over. And like stories like, when I say A, I also have to say B. Well, does that mean that if you go in the wrong direction, you have to keep on moving? Doesn't make sense.
No.
But it is a belief system that we have built everything else upon. But actually, truth is that life is meant to be easy. Life is meant to be abundant. Life is meant to be joyful. Life is meant to be love. Life is meant for you to have a community where you feel like you're connected on a deep, deep level instead of separated. When you feel separated, it is because that you are separated to a part of yourself. So it's about integrating all these sides of yourself that are your inner wounded children, because there are more of them. And each of these children, inner wounded children, hold a frequency that we have blocked out at some point. So let's say that when you're a little child and you express anger, and you're in a family where anger is not socially acceptable, you will blank that emotion out when you experience the rejection when you are angry.
Mm-hmm.
So you will adapt into a survival mechanism, also called your shadows. So you might be executing as a pleaser, as somebody who are fearful for conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
Might be the nice girl or the nice boy or the high achiever or the perfectionist or. I mean, all these parts of us, and we have to reintegrate it in order for us to open up to the full GPS. Because if you have blanked out an emotion like 150 anger,
Mm-hmm.
to then get feelings of anger from your system, you will have an emotional blockage between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind that would make it hard for you to feel these emotions. You will not even get the message until you hit the next lower level. For example, let's say shame.
Yeah.
Bottom. By then you might feel it. And you might ask yourself, how did I go from happy to shameful? That's because you have emotions that are blocked out, that you did not feel safe in feeling.
Yeah.
But the body still holds the frequency. So what we use is that we use alcoholism, we eat too much, we work too much, we have too much sex, we do games, we do whatever. All these are for us to put a lid on whatever emotion that we're not comfortable and safe in expressing. So we have to. But sooner or later, our soul will give us the wake-up call. So don't snooze it forever.
No.
This inner alarm clock that we all hold. And I can see, by being married 3 times and divorced 3 times and so many other things that I've done in my life where I didn't listen, that it did not bring me into heaven. It brought me into hell. And we have to also come to terms with the fact that it is not egocentric to follow our heart and do what feels right to us. Actually, only then, when we say yes to ourselves, we can also, in an unconditional way, say yes to others. Otherwise, we would be hung up on other people giving us what we cannot give ourselves. And that would make love and relationships very conditional. It would be like quid pro quo. I have to get something from you. So that is also a big part of this awakening process that we're all going through. And right now, it's like the cosmic universe is having a party. And it's bombarding us with light on a cellular level right now. And when we are struck by so much light on a cellular level, which is photons, we hold light on a cellular level. And once that happens, all the darkness has to disappear. And that will come out as like shit is hitting the fan.
Oh, yeah.
and that is just an invitation to all of us to look at that shit that hits the fan and look at, okay, which wounded inner child do I have to take loving care of now and give to myself? How can I heal this part of myself? Because I might not have been having a family, parents that would attend to all of my needs in an unconditional way because they were not able to. So now I have to be the unconditionally loving parent of myself and all my inner wounded children.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the process, and that's not something you do overnight. That is something that you do with a persistent, effort in every now, to just, for each level another devil, as one of my clients said. but we can also, actually just willingly walk into this place of life is meant to be easy. when that shift happens, it can happen overnight. Actually, you can get enlightened overnight. But what I experience is that many people like myself, whose purpose in life is to help others, it looks like many of us has been walking the path with a lot of resistance. In order for us to really learn and integrate this on a cellular level. And learning happens through contrast.
Yes.
Learning happens, and the very first step of manifestation is to get really deep into what I don't want. Because that is when I can, with the help of someone like me, for example, turn things upside down 180 degrees and say, well, if this is what I don't want, then this is what I do want. But since the mind is looking at the hole in the road, you know, it will have a hard time to find everything else. So that is why coaching is a good idea, is in order for me to offer a perspective.
Yeah.
But you cannot see yourself. Because you're looking into the wall, looking into the hole.
Isn't it like the fish who doesn't know the water in some way?
Yes, yes. And apropos that image, it's also like, actually life should be so easy that you find your right element. Like a fish swim, a bird flies. You have to find your element. And that element will feel like it's the most natural thing for you to do. But if you're still holding on to the belief that it has to be no gain with pain or no pain with gain, then you cannot allow yourself to go into this element of yours. So that is what life is teaching us all.
Yeah. And it's so good to bring some clarity into all that.
Yes. Because I've been walking this path with consciousness. And I feel sorry for those that do not have the consciousness on their path, because they must be devastated by what's happening. It would be so easy to turn that inwards and say there's something wrong with me. No, you're good enough and you're lovable just the way you are. Period. We all are. And once we get that, really get that, I mean, magic happens. Magic.
Yeah, and the point is, I think, really getting it, because I think it resonates somehow, more or less, probably with almost everyone, but to really, really like be that's a whole different thing.
And that is the progress of humankind, is that first we get into the awareness state of how things are supposed to be. And then next we can integrate it on a cellular level. And there is like a time slot between those two states where we tend to use the new consciousness to bang our heads with, why am I not able to do this then?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you are on your path. I mean, the next step is to integrate it on a cellular level. And that is how I use healing, is for that to be quicker and more easy and more smooth. Of course we can do it, but we can also choose a path of least resistance if we want to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I do this both, when people are here in Denmark, they usually come to me. But otherwise I've done, like with yourself, a Zoom call or a Skype call, and it works as well. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter whether it's one thing or the other. And healing can also be given remotely, so you don't even have to be here for a healing session either. So
yeah,
and that is just the magic of this universe, that it is actually out of time and out of space and out of everything. I mean, it's all happening now, and we can actually be interconnected. Always. We are always. I think that's what the internet showed us on a technological level, it sort of opens up our mind of how things are energetically working already.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
To harvest the fruits of this interconnectivity. So,
yeah. I truly believe that there is actually no time, and that we're connected beyond space, time.
Yeah, we are.
And so it just makes sense that energetic exchange, be it in a conversation like the one we're having now, or in a healing session, doesn't necessarily have to be a setting where you meet in person, even though that's super beautiful.
Of course it is. And I mean, we just have to do what's possible also. And just, I mean, if you resonate with a person on the other side of the earth, I mean, if it's a whole body yes, do it. If it's a whole body yes to go to a coach in a city near you, do it. I mean, just feel into what's right for you. Don't go into thinking. You can go into thinking once you have the direction right. But don't let your mind choose the direction.
Mm-hmm. So for everybody who has this, hey, I would like to know more about Suzanne. Maybe I would even like to work with her. Mm-hmm. How and where can they find you, and what kind of like framework of support do you offer them?
Yeah. So you can find me online on susannefransen.dk, susannefransen.dk. And I also have a webpage in English in here, so you can do it both in Danish and English. And on this website, you can get access into free e-guides, both in Danish and in English. I think I have 3 in Danish and 3 in English by now. Mm-hmm. Choose your subject. And after this e-guide, you get sent a series of 7 mails with online mini course on how to apply the strategies that I describe in the e-guides, so that you sort of get a little bit of help and to keep on your track. You can also find me on Facebook, Suzanne Fransen Catalyzing Change. I also have a Danish page and a UK page. You can find me on Instagram, Suzanne Fransen Catalyzing Change, where I share inspirational quotes and videos, Insta Lives. You can find me on YouTube. I have only a few in English in there, but you can find a lot of Danish videos, and I've also uploaded the webinars. You can find me on kittytalks.com. I made a podcast with Kitty. Mm-hmm. You can find a English podcast with runamagnus.com on her Changemaker podcast. And should you feel like talking to me, I offer 15 minutes of free consultation on Skype or phone, just for you to tap into, is this something for you? And might even get help on something that feels heavy right now to choose the right direction. And 60 minutes if it's a company that would like to, get the organizational change thing. Is there anything? If you're Danish, you can buy my book. It's only in Danish by now, but I feel like the universe is calling for an English version right now. Yeah. In Danish, it's called Direktørmanualen Ledelse fra Hjertet, which is translated into Director's Manual Heartfelt Leadership. And it can be bought on Amazon and Saxo. Is there anything else? Yeah, I have numerous newsletters as well. So if you're Danish, you can get spammed by me. You can also find me on LinkedIn, of course, where I've shared quite a few articles and also a couple of articles in English. So feel free to dig in. And should you choose a passion test, and it's on Skype and it's in English, you should count on 4 hours session, where I do 1 hour where I introduce the heart, the brain, the epigenetics and quantum physics, and then a 3-hour session of coaching. And should you need healing after that, that would come on top of it. And if you're a Danish client, you could see my online speech on the brain, the heart, the epigenetics and all that, which is approximately 3 hours. You can buy it on my webpage, and then do a session with me either on Zoom, Skype, or here in my living room. Yeah, I think that's about it. And I also have online courses, but only in Danish as well, which is where the magnetic leader comes into play. I've done that also real life, created masterminds circles over half a year, where we really dig into these subjects that we have touched upon today and translate it into how does this affect my way of leading? How does it affect how we build strategies, processes? How should we, how can we call out this life purpose of each individual for them to thrive, for all of us to thrive, in order for us to move from this performance-driven culture into a purpose-driven culture, because it shows on the bottom line. But we have to turn it upside down to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for everybody who's watching and listening, you'll find all important information about Suzanne and her work right here below this interview. So she's anyway easy to find, but we'll make it even easier. And so, Suzanne, is there anything that we forgot? Is there anything important that you would like to add here before we close?
I think that's about it. I mean, if you're in Rome, end of September, you could attend a conference for women in leadership roles, where I will come and coach and do workshops. And if you're in Nigeria sometime in September, I'm also going there. And I would love to get invited into doing speaking engagements and coaching engagements and companies abroad as well. So please contact me if that is the case. I think that's it.
Oh, very yes. Thank you from my heart for sharing this time and space with me.
Thank you, Nina. It was lovely and a pleasure. And yeah, thank you to all your listeners that might join us and listen in. Just know that you are special and that you are good enough and that you are lovable, and your life is meant to be easy and abundant and joyful and whatever else you might dream for. It is possible. You just have to be courageous and brave and show your vulnerability and look into what is it that life invites me to let go of so that I can let something come in. And I promise you, you will not die. You will just be even more joyful.
Thank you so much. And bye everybody. And always remember, like Suzanne said, to be courageous and take the driver's seat of the car called your life and create this lifetime to your taste. It's our pleasure here at Mind Gourmet to support you with our food for thought. Bye everyone.
Bye guys.